The news over the weekend that Monarch has ceased trading as an airline means that those that have booked packages for some future date will have to be reassigned seats on other airlines, and those that are left stranded, there's a guarantee to have them brought back home. And this means that other airlines may pick up some of this business. Which airlines? Well, that itself is not an issue for us to discuss, but more about a trading opportunity. Josh is with us now. He's been going through some of the charts, and this is an interesting sector because there are some underlying dynamics for other airlines. Again, perhaps maybe that's for another occasion, but what are you pulling out in terms of some of the charts to watch?
Yeah, I thought it would be beneficial to be able to look at some of the charts of some of the big competitors that may actually benefit from this. I think the first one to look at here is easyJet. Of course, we've seen a decent rebound recently with everything that's happening with Ryanair, and they've benefited from that. We've now, of course, seen this jump higher now. Now, of course, this week as well is an interesting one. We're going to see numbers from easyJet at the back end of the week. And that means that it was one to watch anyway for the week. And we were talking on Friday about this 1244 being a real crucial level. It necessitates the creation of a higher low and the creation of a new higher high. And both of those have been made now. Now, I guess when we're looking at the trend over the past couple of months, 2 to 3 months, generally this pullback has been perceived as a retracement of this rally that we saw throughout the sort of beginning part of the year, I would say. And therefore, the idea is that soon enough we'll get back on trend. Now, the fact that we've broken to a new high could tell us a story that actually this sell-off that we've been seeing over recent months is over. The next major level to be looking out for is here, 1372. But certainly for me, on the short term, it looks like, despite the fact that we saw a bit of a pullback, that looks like pulling back towards that 1244 level. We're heading higher once more. I think we should see this share coming into favour quite heavily over the coming period, and certainly as we get those numbers towards the back end of the week, it's going to be pretty interesting and important one to watch. Another one is Wizz Air. I think this is probably the most interesting and impressive chart of the lot, actually. When we look at the weekly time frame, you can see it's actually had an incredible run of it throughout 2017 so far. And that doesn't necessarily show any signs of letting up. You can see we have seen a big spike today, and this comes off the fact that we've been seeing some selling so far throughout September, but we've come back to this 50-day SMA and ultimately now started to push higher, and the 4-hour chart shows you that we have managed to break out of this triangle that we had been seeing, and now crucially we've broken through this 28.89. That portrays a market that's likely to break towards the upside and continue to do so. So your next level is going to be the high of 29.76. You can see it's pretty much the high of the day. If we get a close up above there, considering the massive uptrend that we've got coming into this looks like a market that could be heading towards the upside in a pretty serious manner going forward. And finally, of the three, I wanted to show IAG, which doesn't necessarily show us a hugely bullish signal because of the fact, if we look here on the weekly time frame, we have actually seen such a strong run from Q4 of 2016 through to sort of middle of this year, let's say around about August, we all of a sudden started hitting the buffer around about May and June, where we came into this 629 high and then have seen this market fail to create new highs, starting to head back towards this 569 mark. There is a potential that we could be forming some sort of topping formation here, and a break below 569 would portray this market as looking like it's going to head lower. But of course, everything that's been happening over the past couple of weeks has been beneficial. And essentially the way I look at this one is we've got this 569 towards the downside, we've got 630 towards the upside. The breakout from that should give us our lead for a good number of months price action for IAG.
So one of the other airlines we do have to discuss in the context of what's going on is Ryanair. You mentioned Ryanair is coming out with traffic numbers on Tuesday. It's got all sorts of problems of its own because we've got these issues around the fact there's a lack of pilots having to cancel flights. I noticed actually on the news this morning that this could actually be a positive for Ryanair because they might be able to pick up some of those airline pilots that have no longer got jobs at Monarch, so they could bring them onto the payroll if they want to go to Ryanair. What about the Ryanair chart with all that different dynamic going on?
Yeah, certainly. And actually, I think this looks like arguably one of the more impressive opportunities of the lot because we have seen such a decent pullback. You can see here over a number of years, we've seen this big uptrend in Ryanair. And yes, we've not necessarily seen them faring too well recently, or everything that's been coming out in the news hasn't been particularly beneficial. And you can see that in its share price, this big drop lower. But we've come into this 50-week SMA. You can see it's been touching it and respecting it absolutely perfectly. It's coming towards this 1558 mark as well, which is that previous high. So what we're looking at here, to me, looks like a retracement of a very clear uptrend. Everything that's happening now in terms of the pilot issue, and like you said, we could actually find that today's news would provide a resolution to that. that to me is a short-term event, and therefore the weakness we're seeing at the moment I don't think is necessarily going to last. If we get the Fibonacci onto this support level down here and see where we've got the pullback coming into at the moment, we can see it's hit the 61.8. Any further downside I would see as a buying opportunity. I think this area here between your 50-week SMA and the 1558 is a really interesting area for a potential long position. We just got to look out for this level. As long as we don't break below this 1386 mark, I do think we're likely to turn higher once more. Just looking on the 4-hour chart, you can see we have got some interesting peaks here around about 1726, 1708, this area of resistance. Let's see if we can get a break through that, then that for me is probably going to signal the beginning of the end for that selling and the beginning of a more sort of positive period for Ryanair's share price.